But we're delighted, first of all, to have the final session of the day. So it's an issue which has been brought up a number of times during the previous sessions, the issue of the Secure Connectivity Initiative. So we're delighted now to have a session that's going to be focusing specifically on this. To explain more and to introduce our panelists, I'd like to hand over now to Arti Holla, Secretary General from GSOA, who's going to be moderating the session. Arti, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thanks, everybody, for coming and staying for the last session of the day. It might be the last session, but it is guaranteed to be entertaining and lively. SES is providing the entertainment after the session, but hopefully during it as well. Right, Rui?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this session is on achieving the goals of the European Secure Connectivity Initiative. Last time this year, we wondered how long it would take before we saw legislation around this topic. And the Commission has surprised us. It has managed to accelerate the process. But there is still a long road ahead before we actually make this program a reality. So we're going to dive into a conversation with our panelists and explore their views. And let's see, how long is that road going to be in your view? How bumpy is it going to be? Are there obstacles on the way, or will it be smooth sailing? And I'm thrilled that you could all join me, so thank you very much. We have Susanna from Thales, we have Enrique from GMV, Antonio from Hispasat, Rui from SES, Mr. Grudler from the European Parliament, and Dominic from the European Commission. Thanks very much for coming. So I wanted just to start by giving you each a couple of minutes to share your perspectives on this. And if I can start with Mr. Grudler. Mr. Grudler, we need the European member states to be united behind this initiative. That is absolutely clear. That's essential if it's going to move forward without delay. So what can you tell us about the feeling among the member states right now? What confidence can we have that the file will be backed by all of the member states, given the multiple political priorities that Europe has right now?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very glad to be here with you this afternoon as rapporteur for the European Parliament on the Secure Connectivity Program. We couldn't have a better time to discuss it as we are in the middle of intense negotiations with the Czech presidency on this file. You are almost lucky to have me because we have our first trilogue this Thursday and the Parliament prepares itself for the discussion. But I couldn't miss the great panel we have today, and maybe now I can give you some inputs about what I want to do with this initiative. With my colleague, we strongly believe in the new EU project that will be the fourth pillar of our EU space program after Galileo, Copernicus, SSI, and now connectivity. We had almost unanimity in the vote in our industry committee in the Parliament, showing the full support for the initiative and for our position. As member of the European Parliament, it is for me very important that there's satellites answers both the needs of governments and EU agencies, of course, but also the needs of EU citizens more directly. On the governmental part, we want to allow our member states and the EU bodies to be able to be securely connected anywhere in the world and to be prepared to respond to any crisis. Because between the environmental crisis and the unstable geopolitical world, we can be sure that we will have more crises in the future and we will need these new satellite capacities over Europe, but also in other strategic areas for the EU. Then we want these satellites to serve the citizens, European citizens, of course, but not only. In particular, with broadband services, as you know. There are many islands, mountains, and outermost regions in the EU that don't have fast broadband access. And today, that is a problem because if you need internet for anything, from finding a job, for example, to paying your taxes. So a key objective for us is to have fast internet for all. Here, maybe I want to insist on the role of the private sector in this program. We need their commitment to propose innovative and powerful commercial services. The EU gives telecoms operators an opportunity here. They have to size it. These new satellites could be used, for instance, to help provide the universal service as it exists in the telecom directive. The goal is here to complement the existing services, especially as we do not have yet any European LEO capacities. Now, I want to highlight maybe the biggest inputs from the Parliament sides. First, we want to make sure that this constellation is an example in terms of space and environmental sustainability. Regarding space debris, light pollution, or carbon footprint. This is why we added a dedicated article on that point. Space cannot be considered as a trash bin, and the EU should show exemplarity. This comes before the future European STM law that we are waiting with great impatience. But I know that the Commission is ready for this issue. Now, if I have to touch a word on the budget, in the European Parliament, our priority is to have a budget that match our ambitions. The EU budget first, where we need at least 2.4 billion euros. But then also the European member states' contributions, where we are waiting for 1.6 billion. And all this public money should then encourage private actors to participate, in particular for the commercial services, bringing their innovations on capital for these great projects. You will be sure that the Parliament will do everything it can to secure the budget of the program. With the war in Ukraine and the crucial needs for satellite connectivity, we don't see how member states cannot agree to fund well this project. And finally, a key priority for the Parliament is that we want to move fast while bringing on board the entire European space ecosystem with us. We need to go fast because we need these services right now. We are missing them, for example, in Ukraine. And we cannot lose any more time to have a European offer. But we need to go fast with everyone on board, big space companies, of course, but also space SMEs and startups. We need innovation from the whole ecosystem, from the whole EU to the benefit of the program. It is an important point for us. And this is why we also prepared to not use, for me, the vague term of new space. New space is not inside our text because the most important is there is no old space on new space. Most important it is to have innovation. Never mind the size of the company. Before I stop, maybe a last word. This program can be a game changer for the EU strategic autonomy. But to have a success, we will need the full commitment of all private actors. I heard that the PMC, the preliminary market consultation, was a success. This is a great news, but the real work didn't start yet, and I hope that we will deliver these new satellites as soon as possible, of course. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. It's great to see that the Parliament is so moving forward with such conviction on the different elements there. Dominic, if I can come to you, the Commission has pushed a punishing schedule on this legislative initiative so far. Well done with that. Not so long ago, you held a preliminary market consultation. Can you tell us something about the feedback that you've got and how that's progressing?
Indeed. Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Well, maybe just say, firstly, we've been kind of criticized in Europe for being rather slow in getting things moving. But on this initiative, it's moved faster than almost any other space-related activity that we've done, certainly in the Commission. It shows that we've learned lessons from running Galileo, Copernicus, and now we're on secure connectivity. So we want to get this up and running as fast as possible, and it's gone through Commission level, it's gone through Council level. I see Celine in the audience, so Celine helped push that through at Council level, and now we rely on our colleagues in the Parliament to make this move forward and become a reality. And as you said, we've issued a preliminary market consultation. We want to get this up and running as soon as possible. So to do that, we need industry to support us with real space hardware. So we need to issue an ITT. To do that, we need to be well informed about the capabilities of the European space industry. So we've issued this preliminary market consultation to give us a better perspective on what Europe's space industry can do, what it can do now, and what it can do in the future. So it has been a success. We had 47 inputs from companies from the EU, but also outside of the EU. There's a lot of interest, not just within the EU. So companies, many of the companies on this board behind me have responded. So I would like to say thank you to those companies, because it's been a real education. We've learned a lot from it, something like 2,300 pages of material that we've had to wade through, and we've still got to wade through that. And my particular role is covering the frequency elements. But I can say, I won't give you details, but there's been a lot of interest in S-band, and we've seen some of the activities, some of the press releases from Apple, for example, regarding their use of S-band to provide emergency level services. So that's very interesting. I think this is a very exciting time for the space industry. It's essentially connecting space directly with users via handsets. So that's something that has happened before, but not on, I would say, on a mass market level with the iPhone 14. And no doubt that will be the first of many handsets that will have these space capabilities in the future. I see standardization as being really important. 5G now has non-terrestrial networks as part of its part of 3GPP standard. I think that's going to be really crucial. But even beyond direct to handsets, even looking at the kind of the let's say the hotspot activity, so the Starlink or the Amazon type service, where they're not offering or not planning at the moment to offer service direct to a handset, but to a device that sits on a roof or maybe on a car or a train. That's still a very important market for us. And so we're learning from the preliminary market consultation about what capabilities are feasible, what frequencies are feasible. Something that has come out from the PMC so far is that we have filings available in Europe. So that's, I think, a really positive indication about what we can do in the future. I think I'll stop there, and no doubt you'll have questions later on in the session. Thank you.
Indeed, we do. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so Rui, let me come to you. One of the things that operators have been asking for a long time is to accelerate the process, obviously. We have seen that happened. What is your take on where we stand so far with this initiative? Can you just give your initial thoughts on that?
Thanks, Artie. And it would be difficult to find somebody in this room that is not excited or supportive of the initiative. If they didn't like it, they wouldn't be in this conference. So it is a tribute to the Commission and to the Parliament that it has been, and to ESA as well, that it has been proceeding at pace. And we are really excited at SES. Of course, you have to have a word from your sponsors, right? That as a leading company in Europe, we are really excited to be part of the fourth pillar, as Christoph pointed out, and that we are on the record as willing participants and willing to invest, which is important. And that's a long way, or a somewhat long way, of answering your question. Speed in the process makes it easier to bring the private sector on board. If we are fast, if we put in the right place at the right time, the right conditions, the private sector will invest, not only SES, but I'm sure other companies. And it's really pleasing to see that that is actually happening in practice, not just words in panels or conferences. So, yeah, really excited and really supportive, right? And I hope you invite me for the next panel as well.
Great. Thank you. Antonio, let me turn to you. What does Hispasat expect from this initiative in the next 12 months?
Okay, so first of all, thank you for your kind invitation. I subscribe what Ruiz has said, especially with respect to the future invitation to next panels. And because of that, I'm going to try to be short and to try to give our vision on the situation. The first thing I think is that we need to recognize, and I think it has been said, but we need to recognize the effort that has been done by all the efforts, all the administration bodies, especially the Commission, in the process of this action, of this legislative action. We need to recognize that there has been an improvement in the speed of the process of this, and that's a good sign of the program. Then I would like to, very shortly, but I would like to highlight something that has been said during this day several times, that is to insist on the importance of the program. But I would like to highlight that this program is important not only because it will assure the secure and reliable communications for critical systems in Europe, but it's also very important for maintaining the competitiveness of the industry. And in this sense, I would like to make a quote, funny quote, if I may, from the Red Queen of Alice in Wonderland, that in her country, she said that it was taking all the running you can do to keep in the same place. And if you want to get somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast as that. And I think this is exactly the way we are living today. I mean, and we have good examples of that. Let me put you a couple of examples. We have the best communication satellites in the world. They are built in Europe today. And I say as a satellite operator, I am the customer of those guys, and the best communication satellites that you can buy today in the world, they are built either by Thales or by Airbus, because they have a product that is the software-defined satellite. I don't like the term very much, but I think everybody understands that term. And these are the two only companies in the world that can offer a competitive proposal for software-defined satellites today. So we have a very good industry that can be at the forefront of the technology. And let me put you another example. The other example I will recall you is Ariane 5. 10, 15 years ago, Ariane 5 was flying 80% of the commercial satellites. Where are we today? I'm not going to comment. I'll leave you for your reflections. What I'm trying to say is two things. First, we need to maintain the competitiveness on the industry. It's not just to get there, it's to stay there. And in order to stay there, at least on our side, the only way we know that we can improve and maintain the competitiveness on the industry is providing programs to the industry. The way to learn to walk is by walking. There's not another way to learn to walk than by walking. And this is the same thing. So I will leave it there as a general reflection of as one of the objectives of this program. And all this and this program need to be done using the key resources that we have already in Europe. And let me now, just to make our own advertising, satellite operators saying that we have, I mean, one of the best, or the list of, we have the list of the best satellite operators in the world in Europe. I think the 3 satellite operators that you have there in the table can give you a good example on where we in Europe in terms of satellite operators. And I think that we need to take advantage, the administration need to take advantage of this private initiative that already exists in Europe, differently from what happened with Galileo. And now we'll come to our position. In Hispasat particularly, we have some experience already in LEO, and we try to invest and we try to develop one of these mega constellation with a commercial business plan, and we failed. We tried several initiatives. Some of them are public and are known. We were in LeoSat at some point in time, and it didn't work. So we know what we have not to do, which is important to build that constellation. We still don't know how to make it, but we know what we should not make it. And that is important because what I can say is that our current position with respect to constellation is that we are not going to invest in any mega constellation, any private mega constellation, but we are putting our strategic efforts into the European constellation. So in that sense, I will also confirm on our side that Hispasat is also ready to invest in this European constellation as part of our strategic development for LEO constellation, because we are convinced that in the future, satellite operators, we will have to provide services in LEO and in GEO. And our LEO infrastructure, we want to build it in conjunction with the European administration. We want to co-invest with the European administration. And we aspire, our aspiration at the end is to be operators and service providers in this constellation. Now, let me, a couple of minutes, and I'll try to finish soon, about innovation, because Mr. Goodler was asking about innovation. Let me say a couple or 3 things about innovation. One very good news for you, I will give you. We are finalizing a feasibility study with the European Space Agency that will demonstrate that we can make quantum key distribution from GEO. And this is a key event that will allow us to provide QKD from GEO with larger coverage, with 24/7 availability, and with a satellite that is fixed in the sky, and with the possibility to use entangled photon sources that will allow for untrusted nodes. Don't worry, the people that don't understand this, you will understand someday. The people that know that this is very good, and the others just trust me that this will be good in the future. Then, I will finish. I want to refer to also something that we are looking at, not only about communication, but we also believe that PNT in LEO is going to be a key development for the automatic car, the autonomous car. And finally, Dominique was talking about direct-to-handheld services. We are very supportive of this development. In our view, this is going to take some more time. You know, release 17 of the 3GPP has only defined the S-band services, which are quite limited, and you know that the one that it's offered by Apple is very limited. I think that we'll need to wait for the release 18 of the 3GPP to start developing that concept. But certainly we are truly convinced that we should go into that direction. And I will finish just saying one last message. This is really the end. And is that we've been talking also about the possibility of having this constellation providing broadband services, not only in Europe, but in other countries. And as Hispasat, I cannot forget, because it's in our hearts and it's in our day-to-day business, and we cannot forget about Latin America. I think that this constellation also needs to be serving all these Latin American countries where the infrastructure development is way lower than the one we can have in Europe, and the development of communication infrastructure is something that will help the development of those countries. I will leave it there for the moment.
Antonio, thank you very much. That was, at least everything you said was very interesting. So thank you very much for that. Enrique, we don't have 10 minutes, but now GMV hasn't really been involved that much so far. But we know, we've heard from Mr. Grudler, the importance of involving different companies, SMEs from the whole value chain. Where do you see GMV playing a role?
So that's a very good question. So the point here in GMB is that we came here to represent the mid-caps, and just as today we have been again forgotten. So we remember about LSE, we remember about SMEs, and we remember about startups, and mid-caps are still a very important part of engine of the space sector. So we see they're leading all the mid-caps initiative. Obviously, we're very proud of our track record in Galileo, and we have, and second to none experience there. This is a success story, I guess, from the whole European industry. And we're also very proud of our position in the leadership of the worldwide ground control segment, which is also something that we were able to achieve thanks to the competition, which is, I guess, that my major point to get today, to be sure that in the procurement policy, we ensure an open competition. Is no matter if we are going to a commissioner or, whatever you put there, we need to ensure an open competition, not one takes them all, is that we force that the open competition is public. I have another two remarks, although Antonio put them all before, because, it's not, for me, it's not just we are clearly in a secure connectivity new career. This is a space race again. So for me, it's not just that this promise new commercial land to new commercial opportunities. We really need that for the sovereignty and to be able to have the political leverage that the European Commission and Parliament, the European members needs in the global, facing what is happening now worldwide. We've seen, it's not just Starlink, SpaceX, Amazon, Apple, which is quite important in the race, but we also see Chinese and the Russian launching their own secure connectivity constellation together, actually, with some, let's say, kind of coordination. We see the obviously US DoD launch, manufacturing 3 different tranches for creating this transport layout that they are, which is quite amazing. They are putting a transport IP layout on the space. And some European companies are part of that. So I guess that there are a lot of things that are in front of us where the European industry really need to take that advantage and also to develop. Now we are facing a disruptive momentum. So, and it's clearly facing change to an existing industry. So there are two concerns: how we are going to deal. The current industry, how we are going to survive and to develop ourselves and to foster the competitiveness, which is part of the willingness in this initiative, but also to develop the infrastructure that we as a European citizens need to ensure the current position. So I have written here 3 risks, and I'm pretty proud because you solved them all. The first one was the pace, the timeline, and it's clearly that you are going to solve everything in the coming months, so that's very, very good. The second one was the budget, and also has been solved between you and the operators, so that's also solved. Pretty good. And the last one was this idea of the concessionaire, which for me is an opportunity and a risk that we need to manage carefully to be sure that we are able to develop this properly.
Great, thank you very much, Enrique. Okay, Susanna, let me come to you. Europe's industrial base has always been central behind the European space projects. In fact, they've been a driving force behind them. So how is this one going from a manufacturer's perspective?
Yes, so first of all, good afternoon. I'm very glad also to be here. I will try to not repeat too much what has been said, which is going to be quite difficult. As a satellite manufacturer, we think this initiative we welcome very much this initiative. We think it will bring real added value to Europe. It will foster the competitiveness of the whole European supply chain. And let me remind a little bit the why. As Enrique said, we are not only here to develop one constellation in front of a Starlink or Kuiper or whatever. We have several things that are at stake today. We need to provide our institutions, wherever they are, in the world secure communication. So what does it mean? It means that we need to to give them available communications. And the current conflict in Ukraine shows that we cannot rely only mainly in commercial infrastructures, robust communication, and the initiative of the European Commission is a multi-layer initiative that will bring additional resilience and also confidential communication. And thanks to this infrastructure, we will avoid submarine cables and so on that will make possible to avoid any risk of eavesdropping and autonomy. And finally, it has not been said, but this initiative is key to secure the future spectrum rights for the European constellations. And for this specific matter, the window of opportunity is quite narrow. So we need really to be sure that if we want a European constellation to be out there, we need to move now. Okay, this is key. Having said that, the European Constellation Initiative is a wide initiative, and thanks to this, Thales Alenia Space believes European will be able to implement a sovereign communication backbone, reinforcing the services delivered by other European programs like Copernicus and Galileo. Okay. And of course, there are many challenges ahead, and I will take one in the regulation domain, so maybe for Dominique. With the quantum key distribution example. So quantum key distribution will bring an additional layer of security, but only provided you get the right level of certification. At what happens today, it happens that this certification is delivered by the national security authorities on a country basis, okay? So a global certification is pushed by EC and ESA, but it can be complex and time-consuming if not also supported by the national security agencies. So we will call for the need to define and implement a unique proven certification methodology to federate all national security agencies in Europe. Okay. And despite these challenges that we have, this is one of them, we believe that thanks to this connectivity program, we will have at the end a competitive European space ecosystem. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so Mr. Gribler, if I can come back to you. The initiative is intended to be implemented as a PPP, but the legislative text, it still foresees procuring a public infrastructure to allow the provision of new governmental services. How will we make sure that the project doesn't distort the market, the government market, which today is already served, for example, by LuxGovSat and SES, or Hisdesat and Hispasat, just two of the examples here on sitting with us today.
Thank you very much for this nice question. But some part of answers. First, this program will enable two types of governmental services. You have hard gov services based on the governmental infrastructure. You have low gov services based on the commercial infrastructure. But, and I want to be very clear, this program built on the existing GovSatcom program that will be expanded. So any satellite operator that fulfill the security requirements will be able to continue provide governmental service through the GovSatcom hub. And this will make things easier maybe for both member states and private actors, as there will be a one-stop shop, we can say, to build a wide variety of governmental satellite capacities. And to respond to the fear of distortion of the market, maybe three short things I can add. First, the capacities planned will not be enormous. We are talking about a few hundreds satellites. Maybe the Commission will have a better number, but that will be much less than the capacities of the private actors. Second thing, to my knowledge, there are now LEO governmental capacities existing on the market that respond to the eligibility and security needs of the EU. So they are not disturbing the market here, as we are creating a service that doesn't exist on the market. And third, the governmental needs will expand in the coming years. So the share of the cake, I can say, will be bigger. And I am sure that SOS, Hispasat, and others will flourish in the coming years.
Okay, thank you. Ruby, can I bring you in immediately on that? Are you concerned that the program might go down such a public procurement route that eventually does compete with your type of government services? How do you react to Mr. Rudler's comments?
Well, I'm relieved to hear from the Parliament and indirectly from the Commission that it's not a concern. Having said that, what I would encourage us is to be innovative. And the distinction between hard gov and light gov can be misleading in a sense. We should be innovative and maximize the synergies. There are requirements to be met for what we call more secure and less secure. The type of infrastructure that we build with innovation doesn't need to be constrained by the previous definitions of hard gov and light gov. As long as those requirements are satisfied for the different use cases, we can maximize the synergies and avoid something that could slow down the program, which would be a long conversation between existing players and the Commission about what is competition, what is not competition. So what I'm saying is that what Christophe said is music to our ears, and I think it works. But it should work in the context of innovation, i.e., we shouldn't bind ourselves to existing definitions on how we are going to satisfy the requirements of more secure and less secure services. And I feel that I should continue on because, I mean, Antonio took all the whole 10 minutes and all the best lines. So, give me another question so that I can catch up here, please.
You need to wait a little bit. It's time for the Commission. It's time for the Commission. But wait, Dominic, let me put you on the spot. Everybody wants clarity. They want clarity around roles, around timeframes, around funding, investment expectations. I mean, one of the big things is you want the private sector to invest. So obviously, one of the things the private sector needs is clarity. They need to know what is the framework in which they are going to invest. So what answers can you provide to the industrial players today? You'll be a very rich man if you can, but go on.
I don't think I can provide anything in that respect. It's not really something that I'm really an expert on, so I wouldn't feel confident to give an informed opinion. I'm more of a technical person, I have to say. So my apologies. Give me another question.
Let me give you one straight off the bat then. What is the situation with respect to frequencies? We know about the French KU filing, this much we know, but does the Commission have the frequencies it needs really to move forward with this commercially and so on?
So we spoke about governmental services. So we have this filing, the French filing, KA band that is, we see it to be a very flexible filing in terms of the frequencies that it covers, but also the orbits. What will also be key is to try to get some kind of compatibility with other filings for the non-governmental services. So the light gov or maybe the commercial services. So are there filings that can be put on the same satellite, for example, that would share some elements? And from what I've seen from the PMC, yes, there are. So I think on the filing side, yes, we have things covered. I think one question remains is the coordination, the ITU coordination process, because even if you have a filing covering a frequency, you still need to coordinate that with all the existing players. So that coordination process still needs to happen. You would need to coordinate with the likes of Starlink, Amazon, maybe some other companies. So whether you get the capacity available after you've done this coordination process is maybe still a little bit of an unknown. But I think on my own, from my own perspective, I'm confident that we have frequencies available that will make a system feasible and worthwhile having.
Okay, great. Let's turn to the roles a little bit. Rui, I just want to come back to you briefly here. So the Commission, as you know, has relied heavily on the manufacturing base in the past to guide it in realizing space programs. Being realistic, I don't know how likely it is that that's going to change. So if that is the case, then how do you see the relationship moving forward between operators and manufacturers?
Thanks, Artie. So now I will have my 10 minutes then, I suppose. but on that point, quite frankly, I think we should try a somewhat novel approach. That novel approach is we tell the manufacturers what to do, and they actually go and do it. And, you know, you may think that I'm being lighthearted or joking a little bit, but there is a serious point to this. Historically, what the manufacturers in Europe, I mean, Antonio was saying that Airbus and Thales are ahead with software-defined satellites and geotechnology. We have been buying MEO satellites in NGSO from Thales, and we're quite happy with them, and they work well. What I mean by that comment is that part of our role as the industry, as operators, is to drive the manufacturers forward. Just going and ask Thales, you know, Airbus, what to do, they are going to do what they are more comfortable with. That's natural. We tend to do that as well. So it's our job as operators, as the Commission defining the use cases, to drive innovation, to force the technology change, to come up with innovative ideas. And when I say tell the manufacturers what to do, what I actually mean is that we should foster and incentivize the manufacturers to go outside the box. That's what we have to do. And that's why I'm saying that the relationship has to change, because we have to put our industry, including the so-called startup scene and so on, we have to put them out of their comfort zone. That's why I think it has to change. So yeah, have to tell them what to do.
You still have at least 4 minutes if we're judging by Antonio's.
Oh, I can talk about quantum key distribution and quantum entanglement.
Maybe I can answer a little bit to that.
Yeah, actually, I was going to bring Susanna in. Go on, Susanna, how do you respond to that?
Yes, so I will say that for constellation programs that we are used to build in Thales Alenia Space and to develop, the relationship between a satellite operator and a satellite manufacturer is much more in a collaborative way than you do so and you don't say a thing. So we are talking about very, very complex systems. And yes, maybe we need sometimes to be pushed out of our boundaries to reach maybe to go beyond what our expectations, but at the same time, we need also to bring operators sometimes into the reality and so I think, yes, so it's really a collaborative way that we are used to use today when we have designed, we are designing the most advanced state-of-the-art constellations in the world.
Yes, but you're also responding to customer requirements, right? And
Yes.
what I mean, customers being operators, but then the operators who are closer to the market.
Yes.
So
In these cases, customer requirements is not the same requirements that for a geo commercial broadcast band pipe satellite. Is quite much more complicated, and then it's an iterative discussions between the satellite operator and the satellite manufacturer to go to the right specification and the right level of specification.
yeah, I don't doubt that it's iterative. It's always iterative. But I think the point is whether, I mean, I wonder whether the Commission has a level of confidence simply because it has historically worked so hand in hand with the manufacturers. Does the Commission have the confidence to now take a different approach and work hand in hand with operators who then, bring with them the manufacturers? That's the point, I think.
I think yes. We have the confidence in the capabilities, certainly from our experience with the manufacturers, from our previous interactions with various programs that we've already established. But also going back to the PMC, that the SMEs and startups were a significant part of the input to that process. So we know that even let's say the newer companies that are in the space field have that capability. Working with the operators, certainly we have experience from Galileo and also from EGNOS now with working directly with operators. So we know that there is an expertise there that can add value to what we are planning. So I think the answer to your question is yes, definitely. We have a better interaction now.
Okay. Rui, a quick one, and I want to bring in Antonio.
No,
Go
I'm
on.
using Antonio's
waiting
time.
line.
Yes. No, very quickly. I think that the point that I would like to add is that if the Commission and the Parliament, if all of us want private investment, you have to allow the private sector what it does best is to push the boundaries, right? I mean, if we are going to do a Me Too system, you don't need private investment to do that, all right? That doesn't work. So in order to get that private investment, you have to allow the private interactively, right? I get it. You know, we have to iterate, yes. But you have to allow us to push the boundaries. Multi-orbit architectures, and we have been doing it in MEO for quite a few years, they are difficult. And if you don't push the whole ecosystem, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, okay. And Antonio, let me bring you in. I mean, Susanna said that this is not just about producing a competing system to put onto the global market that comes from Europe. It's about secure comms. It's about spectrum rights for the EU, et cetera, et cetera. I think that Commissioner Breton sees very much that this is about putting Europe on the competitive map when it comes to mega constellations. I think that's absolutely front and central behind his initiative. And so with that commercial imperative behind it, the operator role becomes even more important. So how confident are you that operators will be at the forefront of this initiative, which is ultimately really key to giving it the best chances of success?
Yes, I think we are revolving on the same question, and I will subscribe what Rui has said. You need to understand something important, and is that the money that we are saying that we are going to put in the constellation is not our money; it's our shareholders' money. So it means we need to convince our shareholders that that's the right way to put that's the right place to put the money, and that they are going to get the return of the investment that they're expecting for that money. And the only way we can do that, sorry for that, is if we are leading the process of the definition of the mission, if we are leading the process of the procurement follow-up, if we are challenging the industry, as we are saying, if we are pushing them to get out of the box. Obviously, Susanna, in a very iterative way, like we've always done. I mean, I don't think we've ever done it in a master-slave mode. I think we are working in a peer-to-peer, but we are the customer at the end of the day. And we are the customer not because we are greater, no, because we are putting the money and we are taking the risk. The day you take the risk, that day you will decide. But as long as we are putting the money, we need to have the capability to take decision and to master and to control the process.
Excellent. Okay, let's stick with roles, but move to a slightly different perspective. Enrique, let me bring you back in. If this initiative is going to compete on the global marketplace, it does require the experience, the assets, the know-how, the existing customer base of companies like the operators that we have here today. But also, it requires the experience and the scale that the larger manufacturers bring as well, right? But at the same time, we know that member states want to open the process, maybe it's up to 30%, to other players. So against that background, how would you structure the process? How would you see it? Do you believe that one contract would be the best approach? Do you believe there's also an opportunity to split a contract in favor of different players to enable them to add value? What's your view on that?
I really would like to have the answer to that, which I'm not. But at the end is what the operators, Rui and Antonio, were trying to put in the table. So I mean, the initiative is so big and it's so important that it's like a twofold approach. They need to secure their investment, and they need to lead somehow what will be the outcome of the initiative. At the same point, if we will to bring innovation, is not only the commercial innovation what needs to be put it there. There is also ESA has been innovating in the telecommunication field for many years, and is, let's say, towards a commercial approach, but also seeing the future. I mean, not the short term or the medium term. And about a single contract, yes, has a clear advantage of control, and maybe it will be an easy approach to start doing something very fast and to have a solution also very fast. But that will solve the short term, and we need to also put the focus on the medium term. If we create like a big pseudo, single consortia that is leading and shaping the future of the whole industry, if we are going to pursue that, we need to really have some means to get the rest of the industry being part of the same approach. So splitting the contract safely, like we did in Galileo, maybe with taking the good lesson learned from Galileo, they will also help to be more competitive in the future, because in the short term that will be a great real competitive approach, single contract. But what is going to happen in the medium term? That is my concern there.
Okay, Susanna, let me bring you back in. This idea that SMEs will bring vital innovation to the initiative, what role do you see for SMEs, and how do you see that working?
Yes, so first, as mentioned before, I think I would like to precise that innovation is coming for every single player in the industry, whatever the size of the industry, whatever the age of the industry. So this is very important. So for example, in Thales Alenia Space, we have introduced important innovation thanks to the support of European Space Agency and national agencies and European Commission. So this makes that today European manufacturers, because other established manufacturers in Europe have massively invested in R&D, are, as Antonio mentioned before, leading the geo-commercial market and winning the competition out there well ahead of US. So this was not the case a few years ago, so the difficulty will be to maintain, as Antonio said. And having said that, in this ambitious program, I expect that mid-caps, SMEs, and startups will be actively involved, and that it will bring additional innovation with added value such as agility and flexibility. To make this work, we think, and we have demonstrated, that close collaboration between these small companies and large companies like Thales Alenia Space is key. And for example, we have we support, when we do so, we support our partners by providing a system view and expertise, oriented toward the markets. And also we contribute to increase the reliability of the system, because availability, performance, lifetime are key factors that investors are looking at, because they cannot afford a failure of the system. Okay, and as an example, we have partnered with ACNOS and NeoAngels, the first nanosatellite of the Kinéis series, which took 18 months, followed by the 25 satellites of the constellation of Kinéis. And lately, we have partnered with smart startups like NanoAvionics to put in orbit two satellites linked to 5G with Omnispace. So finally, one point to be taken into account, that in this secure initiative, we have the more security. So it may be challenging for small companies, startups, SMEs to deal with these security requirements. In that field, we are used to support them and to help them by developing and defining a perimeter, a specific perimeter for them to be able to work without being pushed away by this barrier to entry, which is security.
May I just to complement my answer before, because I really have like a dream or a hope, which is difficult to achieve. But when we are seeing competition, and we see Thales and Airbus are leading the competition outside, we are forgetting that SpaceX is manufacturing their own satellites, Amazon is going to manufacture their own satellites, and Apple will see what happens. So if we are really requested to lead the commercial activities, we really need to be innovative in an agile way. So when we are putting on the place that we already know what is the final outcome of the constellation, we are putting already a limit. So the whole thing will be a continuous evolution and innovation to keep the foremost in Europe in the secure connectivity. So it's not just a single shot of innovation, it's a continuous innovation during the whole period.
Okay, a quick reaction from the operators on the implementation of this. How important do you think SMEs are in there? Do you think there's room for that? What do you make of the Parliament's request to keep 30% potentially for other players?
The answer is that, of course, it's important to have SMEs, right? Again, we would be nuts to come here and tell everybody that, oh, forget SMEs, right? I mean, they are a distraction. And I mean, we are not going to say that. However, what I would encourage the Commission and ourselves, as Susanna pointed out, there are many ways in which you can bring innovation. For example, we have a partnership with UNIO, with 3 startups, where we are providing expertise and money. You can subcontract. You can provide specific use cases that are better suited for small companies, maybe narrow IoT or whatever. So my plea or suggestion to the Commission is that be careful with the unintended consequences of hard and fast rules and be flexible. Quite frankly, I trust, the Commission in the end to be able to identify what is really innovative and what is just, dressing. Right? So don't put hard and fast rules or try to avoid them as much as possible, like 30%, or you have to put some money or whatever. Try to identify how we are using the ecosystem and how innovative we are being. That would be my strong suggestion to the Commission.
Okay, great. Mr. Grudler, I want to come back to you. You've been waiting very patiently and listening to this debate. Thank you. But you made 2 very important points. One, you talked about the need for the strategic importance of the project, the importance to connect all of Europeans, but you also talked about the commitment from the private actors, so the investment. So given the importance of the private investment, how do you see the objectives of bridging the digital divide marrying with the digital decade objectives, which have been set by DG Connect, for example, because those are largely based on terrestrial infrastructure?
Thank you very much. If you permit, I just want to make a small answer about SMEs. In order just to explain one thing, we need more public money for space. And if we want more public money, we have to convince the 27 member states of the European Union. And SMEs is a way to convince them. And because if we don't, they, okay, well, it's space policy, it's just for a few countries, it's not for me. I don't want to vote, but I need money for agriculture, I need money for, etc. That's the reason why it's very important to be careful about the situation of SMEs on startup, because it is politically important to embark on board all the member states. And when I will try to negotiate the first MFF for the space money, it will be easier to have some more billion on this policy, because you agree. Nice. Yeah, that was my first comment. And after you underline the importance of private investment. We are in a public-private PPP. Sorry, what is the partnership? I'm sorry, not always so fluent in English. I try to do my best, but we are in a PPP. We put a lot of public money, and we need private money too. And you talk about your shareholders. I'm sure it is the right place to put money, because here there is a real business case because of this PPP. It was in the past when we managed Galileo with the Commission. We imagined a PPP first, but it was not a good idea because there were no business case on geolocalization. We have to say it. With the signal of geolocalization, you are unable to make business. But with telecommunication, it's different. That's the reason why I want to motivate all of you to take a dossier on the Commission after the call that will arrive in November, after the end of our trilogue. It will be very important to be involved in this. But about your specific question about terrestrial infrastructure, there is no opposition for me between terrestrial infrastructure and satellite infrastructure. The two are complementary. Of course, when possible, if we have terrestrial infrastructure, it's better because it's cheaper today, and the speed is very fast with fiber. Well, it's good, but in some remote areas, it's some different case, like war in Ukraine. When you destroy territorial infrastructure, you have a backup with satellite, and it's very important to continue the services. That's the reason why, for me, we need both. There is no competition between the two types.
Brilliant. Okay, Antonio, you want to come in?
Yeah, if I may, I wanted to just to answer to your comment. You cannot really imagine how well I understand, and I will dare to make some parallelism, because your member states are my shareholders, so I know very well the way you feel. and in that sense, and always leveraging on what Rui says, that he says better than me. But leveraging on that, I will say that we need to be smart in the way to manage this innovation on the SMEs. And I will put you an example, exotic example. We need to find and put SMEs, for example, if there is a country where they have a windmill plant and they want to make IoT in order to control that windmill plant, well, let's give it to them. I mean, but let's try to be smart and find what are the right niches where we can have applications in order to engage all these SMEs in the member states that can allow us, and we understand very well, as I'm saying, and we understand that you need to engage the member states to get the 1.6 billion. And we will try to help, but what we are trying to say is let's try to make it in a smart way and above all, in a coordinated manner between the ones that we are putting the money, if we may.
I agree.
Dominic, please.
Yeah, just a point on the complementarity between terrestrial and satellite. So on the service level, yes, I fully agree that the two are complementary. But where I see a conflict, and this is going back to my spectrum background, is the constant demand from the terrestrial mobile operators for more spectrum, and the threat that has on satellite operators. There is less and less spectrum available now for satellite players, and I see that potentially being a longer term problem. If more of these frequencies are given over to terrestrial operators, terrestrial providers, that satellite spectrum is no longer available for use by satellite. So that is an issue that we need to keep an eye on.
Okay, so I think it was great that Mr. Grudler sensitized us to the political challenges which exist around implementation as well, because it's easy for us on the industrial side to lose sight of that a little bit. Dominic, you just mentioned frequencies. I have a question for you from Peter de Selding. Susanna mentioned that, who's not here, but he's watching. So Susanna mentioned that ITU frequency filings have deadlines and then expire. The Commission thinks there are enough filings around in Europe. How tight are the deadlines here?
So for the French filing that I mentioned, that was brought into use, I think, just over a year ago, which means the clock now has started ticking on that filing, and it's a seven-year clock. So we have, let's say, 6 years to bring that fully into use. But there's intermediary milestones that we need to respect. So there's the 10% of the constellation that needs to be in place by 2 years. I understand that there's a derogation that could be made for that, but the really important one is after 5 years, where we need to bring into use 50% of the constellation. For the other filings that I've mentioned, sorry, not filings I've mentioned, but filings that we know exist, it's a similar case. Some of these have been brought into use, some of them haven't. So some of the clock's already ticking and others have yet to start. But because there is a broad range of filings potentially available to the initiative, I'm confident that we will be able to put in place satellites and launch them and bring them into use in the timeframes that are allowed.
So the frequency question used to be one of the main questions around the SCI, and it feels like it's kind of paling into the background. And all we really know about is the French filing. How are the operators feeling about the frequency question? I mean, it's not just about the public hard gov part, right? It's about more than that. How are you guys feeling about that?
I would say that we are feeling optimistic on a couple of points. First, KA-MIL, for example, there is a high degree of control by member states or by countries in general. It's not only the French filings, right? You know, SES has NGSO filings that can be modified. There are other operators that have filings. And I think I wouldn't underestimate, and that's why I think there are grounds to be optimistic. I wouldn't underestimate, quite frankly, the influence and weight of the Commission, right? We are talking about the 27 member states of Europe that have a considerable degree of influence over the ITU, over the regulatory environment, and so on. Of course, we have to follow the rules, but you know, the rules did not hold back Starlink so far, as an example, just picking a random one. And I would and I would expect that once we have an architecture that is agreed within the procurement process, that the Commission will throw its influence alongside the member states on making sure that we have the right frequencies. That's why I think there are grounds to be optimistic. It's not falling into the background, but it's not the most important question in my mind.
Just like it wasn't for Mr. Musk either. Antonio, any comment on that?
Just to add to that, always I subscribe what Rui says, but just to add that something that has changed, I think the perception of the problem is that I think that today we are more realistic with respect to the number of constellations that they're going to really exist. So it's true that 3-4 years ago, there was like a crazy wave that there will be hundreds of mega constellations and thousands and millions of satellites. And today we know there are going to be 1, 2, 3, no, 3 or 4, I don't know. So there won't be that many constellations. And at the end of the day, the frequency coordination is a problem that you need to coordinate with your neighbors. The less neighbors, the easier the problem.
You're forgetting the 300,000 satellites from Rwanda, right?
Oh, yeah.
300,000.
Yeah,
you see Dominic smiling? Yes, the 300,000 satellites from Rwanda. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
They will come at some point.
Okay, guys, we're almost at the end. We have a couple of minutes left. It's crystal ball time. So those who know me, you know I always do this. Now, I have a poster in my office from the days back when I worked on Galileo, and it says Galileo will be operational in 2008. Okay. It was a serious poster. Of course, it happened in, I think it was 2016, so it was like 8 years later. It was way over budget. But if you guys were now designing a poster about the Secure Constellation initiative, in which year would you say it's going to be operational? Susanna, we're starting with you.
Thank you very much. So for that, Arti. So I think that it will depend mostly on. Well, first I believe, and I need to say that yes, Commission is moving very fast on this.
You do need to give me a year, huh?
No. But on this, but on this initiative. So. No, I'm going to. This is why I'm going to take. So I believe the schedule will be respective. I'm positive on the fact that the regulation will be there before year end. I believe the Commission will be ready and with ESA to put an ITT beginning of 2023. Then maybe the response schedule might be a little bit longer. But all in all, if we start the de-risking of the technologies. Thanks to the agencies and so on in 2023, let's say that yes, we can have operational services by 2027, 2028, which is aggressive, I know, but it depends of what type of system we are talking about, okay? Because there are different kinds of systems and then you can have different time of a schedule.
Excellent. Enrique, do you bid higher or lower?
I was about to be higher, higher in the sense of longer. So it's like 2032, but they will be optimistic. So before 2030.
Great, thank you. Antonio?
I think we can make it for 2028, and I think we should aim at that. I think we need to be challenging in this program.
Great. Rui?
I'm going to be the odd person out, right? I think I'm going to pick up a random date of end of 24. I don't know why I would pick up that date, but I would pick that. And the reason I say that is because it depends on what you mean, right? We have assets in Europe that we can deploy for an initial service or an early entry service, like I used to call. So not for declaring success. If it's for declaring success, then, I mean, the panel to my left is correct. If it's to start the service, start the process, show that we can deliver in Europe, I would say 24.
We're all in agreement.
Monsieur Grudler, please, your view.
My view is that it will start next year with GovSatcom. In 2023, it will be the first part of this infrastructure. When we launch the other elements, we'll after plug GovSatcom to this structure. But for me, the first element need to be launched in 2024 because it's very important. It is the end of my mandate as a member of European Parliament. And it is also the date of the end of the mandate of Commissioner Breton. His first mandate, on my first mandate too, and I would like to be during the second mandate in order to show the end of the process, and it will be for me in 2027.
Okay. Dominic, the last word is yours.
Yeah, so basically the same answer as the previous two speakers. So it depends what you mean by operational. So we can roll out services fairly quickly, I would say, with the existing assets that we have. But when you're thinking longer term about the global coverage and maybe direct to handset, which everyone's dreaming about, maybe not over S-band, but over Ka band or maybe even higher frequencies, I would say much longer term. So direct to handset, maybe 3032 or beyond.
Excellent. It's a shame we didn't plan with Forum Europe to have a follow-on session on what we really mean, but thank you very much for that. Please join me in thanking our panelists. I hope you found this an interesting session.
So thank you very much to all of our panelists, and Artie, thank you very much for expertly moderating that as well. So there's one important voice on Secure Connectivity Initiative that we didn't have on that panel, and that's ESA. So that's why we're delighted to now have and to give the final word of the day on this to Elodie Vieux from ESA, who's going to say a few words on the Secure Connectivity Initiative. So Elodie, the floor is yours.
Is it working? Yes, okay, it's working. So thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be with you as the telecom director for European Space Agency. I will repeat a lot of what has been said during the panel. It was a very good panel, and I think it was an extremely balanced panel to really look at what are the challenges to achieve the goal of secure connectivity initiative. So today we are in the digital economy. We are now all connected all the time. We see that we need secure communication more and more during many times for resilience, for availability, for having encrypted communication. And that has been said by many of members of this panel. This is particularly true when we had the COVID crisis, and then we went to the Ukraine crisis, unfortunately, that demonstrates that Europe really need to be autonomous and have the really a secure autonomous communication capability, as it was mentioned by the member of the parliament, but also the European Commission. And that's why at the European Space Agency, we really have welcomed since 2 years the push and the ambition of the Commissioner Breton to launch this initiative of the Secure Connectivity Initiative. And we have been working with them hand to hand to really accompany them. And I think one of the challenges that you have heard is speed. And the European institutions have been aligning themselves at speed. I was very impressed that we were able in less than 2 years to arrive now with this trilogue that is happening as we speak today, even this morning, and that is converging very quickly. And we are aligning and converging on the role of the respective institution because we are there to provide the public support. And the European Space Agency, we are looking forward to support what we have heard, the second challenge, the innovation. So really have the role to reinvent how we work. We have heard from the satellite operator and from the satellite manufacturer, as well as the ground terrestrial players, that we need to work differently to really work together to co-create. And this is the same for the European Space Agency. We are used to do a partnership project, a public-private partnership project, where the industry as the design authority, the design seat effectively, and us, we are there to boost the innovation. And you were mentioning the operator there to challenge and get out of the boundary. And us, as European Space Agency, we are there to push everybody, basically, to innovate more. And so that's where I echo very much what was said to the panelists, that we want to do this constellation with the European institution, a new one that is putting us at the leadership. Why Europeans need to be at the leadership is to be able to have a say at the table. So it's to be able to also collaborate with other member states and with other international bodies. We see US and China providing a strong public support. So I think there is a key milestone that you know for the European Space Agency, which is the ministerial that is coming in 1 month, where we will ask our member states, which are, some of them are, we have the same member states as the European Commission, and some of them are different, but we will ask all our member states to really contribute to this initiative in order for us to be able to share the risk. So it's really about risk taking, but it's also to share the risk. So that's why we are proposing to them to participate and to also support, but still looking for the industry to come with co-funding. And I think that was very clear from this panel. Why we are looking for a PPP in this scheme is because, yes, the telecommunication is a market where there is already existing players and existing markets. And the commercial markets are even strongly developing. We are talking about 5G, as we are pushing already the industry to think about 6G through our ARTES program. That is the other program that we will push at the ministerial. So, and on all, why we are doing that, as you have heard, is to bring the full value chain. It's not just about existing player, but it's also to look how the space is integrated with the terrestrial network, and that is reaching in all the application domain. So we have heard about autonomous vehicle. We are hearing about direct to mobile. We are hearing about crisis rescue and management. So that's really, space is not isolated anymore, and the telecommunication are really going closer to Earth to provide solution. So that's why we will push innovation at the European Space Agency, and we are very proud and happy to work hand to hand with the European Commission and the Parliament nowadays to make this materialize quickly. There were a set of dates provided. Some of them are very challenging, but we are up for the challenge. We will support the industry to achieve those dates in working in a complementary mode. So that's basically my closing remark of today. I hope you have heard and echo some of the challenge. I didn't mention the challenge mentioned by Dominique, that he had this expertise on the regulatory side, but we don't forget it. And we are looking forward to push even more innovation. So my message is that we are ready at the European Space Agency. The institutions are getting together and aligning ourselves. We are ready to start. We are looking for our member states to publicly put money on the table in order to boost our industry, and we will welcome the co-investment of the private actors. Thank you very much.
Elodie, thank you very much. And I think that's a great way to finish the day, and fantastic panel we had just now to finish the day as well. So really do appreciate Elodie's involvement and the involvement of all our panelists, and of course, of all of our speakers that we've had during the various sessions today. So it's been a really interesting day, but it has been quite a long day. So I'm sure you'll all agree that we probably all now deserve a drink. So we're very lucky that SES are going to be very kindly providing some drinks and sponsoring a cocktail reception for us, which is going to be taking place immediately outside the room now. So I'd like to now welcome to the stage Rui Pinto to come and welcome us all to join the reception, I hope. Rui, over to you.
So you think I'm going to do a 5-page speech, and you're wrong, right? On behalf of SES, I'd like to thank all of you for your patience and your support, and for being here in this important initiative, in this important conference, and invite you to drinks on behalf of SES. I'm the only thing standing between you and that door. So please join me for a drink and for a good end of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rui. And as I said, drinks are being served immediately outside the room. And a reminder, we start here again tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow.